All right, doing another one tonight. I think this was kind of important because I wanted to talk to you about some stuff that kind of fills in the gaps at the beginning of what I was talking about last night. I gave you a broad overview of what it is that's going on in society and where we're going and why we're going there, and how they were attacking the family and the people within the family. And what I'm going to talk about real quickly here in a few minutes after I get to this news about the shooter is how they're actually able to utilize this propaganda more readily by giving it to us through the means of the schools and the government. But the individuals, to make them receptive, they're doing something else. And once I start to talk about that, I think you're going to really understand. And it has to do with making our minds more pliable. So, the first thing I want to talk about is what's going on with the shooter right now. Obviously, he was arraigned today. He was charged with aggravated murder. And this is a capital offense. And they also found through the FBI that he was part of a trans cult. And this trans cult, actually, members of that, I believe were members of it, that were found by the InfoWars organization to be posting things. I believe it was about 20 of them. 6 of them lived in the actual town, posting online the day prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination that he was going to be dead tomorrow. And then after the event had happened, they went back online, at least some of them did, and posted, "See, we told you so." So these people need to be immediately arrested by the FBI and held accountable, because these people are not just aiding and abetting. They are accessories to capital murder, and they need to be charged with the same charges that the man that actually committed the shooting was. And they need to be executed in the same way that he's going to be executed by firing squad. That 100% needs to happen. These people need to be held accountable, and we won't be having these things happening in the manner in which they are currently in today's society. Otherwise, what are we going to do? They want us to be afraid. If you look at Destiny, who is a political commentator, he was actually, I believe he was on Piers Morgan, and he was saying that we need to be afraid. And I'm talking about conservatives, so I'm a conservative person. He said that the conservatives need to be afraid so that we shut up, so that more people have to die, so that we're afraid to actually speak those things that we believe are truth. And in truth, if it's scriptural, it is true. It's above us. It's an objective standard. Then, if we have to be afraid to say these things, that's what they're saying that we need to be. But I'm not going to be afraid. And the vast majority of people, especially people like Charlie Kirk, he was not afraid to say what he was saying at all. Now, I don't believe that he really thought that imminent death was upon him. Clearly, otherwise he would have been a little more vigilant, and I believe that his security team would have been a little bit more vigilant. But either way, he would have never stopped saying what he was saying. And the people out there that are speaking the truth should never stop speaking it. It said, "He that heareth speaketh continually," or speaketh constantly, which means speaketh continually, meaning that what we're saying is truth, so we're going to continue to speak it forever. Now, this is a proverb, and the previous part of that verse was, a false witness shall perish. So the false witnesses are going to perish, and their words are going to perish. But a person that's speaking the truth is going to continue to speak it forever, because the truth stands forever. So we should not be afraid, and these people want us to be afraid. Who am I talking about when I say these people? I mean the ones that are online celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, celebrating the death of a person that was out there promoting freedom of speech, so that not only he could speak freely, but they would be able to be also to speak freely of the things that they believed. And in the marketplace of ideas, we will be able to work it out, which is true and which is false, through discourse. Now, the people that are scorners, like these people, they're never going to change what it is that they believe. And when I get to what I'm coming up to, what I'm going to bring up here momentarily, I'm going to explain to you what I think is why this is, other than the biblical perspective of these people. Some of them are definitely reprobates. They have no conscience. And since they have no conscience, they've made themselves God. So they're not going to believe that anybody else is right other than what they believe, because they've made themselves God through their subjective determination. So it says that there's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof is death. And these are the people that I'm talking about. They believe that they're victims. They don't take any accountability, and they have no conscience of this, so they have no guilt. And people like that, again, I can't say that definitively all of them are reprobates, but I would say a lot of them probably are. They have no conscience of sin. They have no conscience of anything of wrongdoing because they've declared themselves to be God, therefore justifying themselves. So how do you get people to end up in that position other than propagandizing them? All right, because we've been propagandized for years, year over year, decade over decade. So that's already been happening. So why is it now that we're moving toward this singularity so much more quickly? Again, like I was saying before, it's exponential, the increase. And I believe that it's going to be much more prevalent in the coming future, and we're going to have a more exponential increase. This is going to keep to get faster and faster and faster. And if you think about it in the form of a black hole, the closer you get to the center, the faster you move, moving into that singularity, that same idea. So, how did we get to this point? Well, we had the propagandizing, which has been going on again for decades and decades. But one of the main things that is being utilized in the United States and around the world, specifically the United States, are antidepressant drugs. Drugs that are being given to people that empty them out so that they're much more pliable. It lowers your inhibition. So what am I talking about? Okay, 11.4% of the population in the United States is on some form of antidepressant. Now, that's the adult population. When you start to move back a little bit, you got the ages of 12 through 17. That's 16.3% of that coming generation that's going to come into adulthood is on these antidepressants. And then you can move even a little bit further back than that, ages 5 to 11. 5 to 11. Let me say this again. Age 5 to 11. 10% of the children in the United States, ages 5 to 11, are on antidepressants or are being prescribed some form of antidepressant. And these numbers are 3 years old. I'm getting this from the CDC in 2022. So you're looking at a total in the middle between 5 and 17 of about, say, 7 million, give or take. That's a lot of kids that are on antidepressants. Now, what do these antidepressants do? Now, anecdotally, I can say that I know a lot of people that I've talked to that will tell you exactly what those antidepressants do. They're supposed to treat symptoms. So if you're having anxiety, if you're having depression, you've got some kind of OCD. I don't like to label people because a lot of these things are not quantifiable. You cannot go take a test and then say, oh, this person has OCD. They're just a set of criteria or symptoms, and that if you meet those criteria or symptoms, then you're diagnosed with this mental illness. All right? So what we're talking about here is something that's not truly quantifiable in any certain form. They're like, you can't go take a scientific test and prove these people have this. But they're giving them antidepressants for this. And in treating these symptoms, now they first started to try this with PTSD, people that had PTSD. So, and they were trying to treat the symptoms of PTSD to try to get these people reintegrated back into society. And then they moved on to the general population. Now, I want to speak specifically about the general population. So, as they're giving these antidepressants to people to treat these things, the side effects are literally, almost verbatim. I'm just going to read you some of these reported side effects. So, if you're taking an antidepressant for your mood, a mood disorder, you're depressed. You have anxiety, panic attacks, trouble sleeping, feeling impulsive, irritable, agitated, hostile, aggressive, restless, hyperactive, mentally or physically more depressed, or have thoughts of suicide or hurting yourself. Oh yeah, I just named all the side effects. So if you're getting prescribed these drugs to treat these symptoms, the side effects of the drugs are the exact same as the symptoms. So how is that? I'll tell you how it is. Because everything that's in us that makes us human, our consciousness, our ability to feel guilt, to have any feelings of empathy or sympathy, love, all of these things are a part of being a human being. And sometimes they go up and sometimes they go down. And you know what? You were not born with something that said, oh, here's your regimen. If he starts to feel bad, give him this drug. That's ridiculous. All right? There are natural ways to get rid of depression. And you know what those natural ways are? proper diet, exercise, get some sunlight, go out and do something, interact with people. Okay, this is going to get rid of depression. That's not even, it's not even debatable. These things will work. So giving people a drug to treat a symptom, and it's actually going to cause the exact same symptoms or exact same things in you that the drug is being given to you for, is ridiculous. It empties you out of all those things. So people just walk around like zombies. So I was specifically talking about fluoxetine when I just read this off, but I'm pretty sure if I just click on every single one of them, there would be small amounts of variation in what the side effects are, but they're pretty much going to be almost exactly the same as the symptoms that they're receiving the drugs for to begin with. So if you're taking a drug like Prozac, fluoxetine, which is a fluoride pill, and what does fluoride do? It makes you docile and stupid. Sodium fluoride. Okay, during World War II, what did they do? They dumped sodium fluoride in the concentration camps' water over in Germany. Why? Because it makes you docile. It makes you dumb. It makes you forget things. It makes you not want to have a reaction to what's going on, to just listen to what you're told and to go and do what it is that is being told to you to do. Now, does that sound like something that you would want? That sounds like they're making you a slave through the drug, because that's what they're doing. And the pharmaceutical companies are making billions and billions of dollars off of this. And the adults, they're at 11.4% of the population in 2022. Now we get these kids coming in. We're teaching them not to go out and exercise and have proper diet and to interact with each other socially, to make to breed the unity in society, that brotherhood that gives you that joy in your family. It says as better of a dinner of herbs where love is, and a stalled ox and hatred therewith. Well, if you look at the socioeconomic status of the people that are receiving these antidepressants, the lower the income level, the higher the amount of depressants are being prescribed. Isn't that interesting? So why is that? Why do we feel depressed if we don't have any money? We're supposed to be content with that which we have. That's why we're not. That's why we're being prescribed these drugs for depression, because we're not content. We live in an instant gratification society where we need these dopamine hits. They tell you that money's going to make you happy, and mansions are going to make you happy, and yachts are going to make you happy, and that's just not true in any way, shape, and or form. Those things will give you immediate joy, but it's a novelty. The joy is going to wear off, and then what are you left with? Now you're going to go seek that high again. All right? If you do this naturally, you're going to have that high every day of your life. So you're not going to need to go out and seek it, because the things that you're doing in your life are going to give you satisfaction. Working with your hands, doing a good job. Choosing to accept your situation and say, well, I'm going to make the best out of what I have going on right here. And then that is going to give me that joy. Not going out and taking a drug that's going to empty you of all the feelings that make you a human being. Because now what you're allowing for by taking all these drugs that empty you out of your humanity, you just walk around like a zombie with echoes in your head about what you should do. And then you end up getting intrusive thoughts like, there's no meaning to life. I might as well just go ahead and end it. Or, well, if I'm not going to end it for myself, or if I'm a victim, now I'm going to choose, well, now I got to go out and take out the people that are victimizing me, because when they say things bad about me, that's violence. Now, I don't think these people necessarily all have that feeling inside of them, because that's been drained away. But they found a way to get that outside of themselves by bonding together in these communities that believe the same thing that they do. And the reason they believe them is they've been propagandized too. They've been propagandized into believing those things, and now they're going out and acting on those things. And how many of the school shooters, how many of the people going out there doing mass shootings are on these SSRIs, psychoactive barbiturates, all these antidepressant drugs? You know how many of them? How many of the last several or several decades worth of school shooters were on these drugs? Every freaking one. Every one of them. We need to wake up to this and see that is how they're infiltrating the individual. Is that they're removing everything about us that makes us a human being and saying that that's a mental illness to have those problems, to feel depressed sometimes. So if you get too happy, that's too much. If you get too sad, that's too much. There are ways to regulate this within yourself. There are ways to regulate this through your daily activities. You don't need to take a drug. When that's being told to you is that you solve your problems by taking drugs, well, they don't just stop at SSRIs. They don't just stop at psychoactive barbiturates and all the other antidepressants. They go out and get the other drugs that get them high. You know what? In the first couple of times you take it, oh yeah, well, the pleasures of sin are but for a season. I assure you that the benefits of taking those up front to get some kind of a high go away quickly. And the negative effects of those take over your life. And then you're chasing that high for the rest of your life. You're chasing it because you think that's what's going to get you where you want to be inside of yourself. But that's just not true. Once you get off of all those things, because it changes your mind, it changes the brain chemistry. So it makes you think that I have to have that. Your body's like, nope, you need it. That's what causes you to feel good. So then you go out and seek that out. And you go out and seek it out in the antidepressants, you go out and seek it out in the opiates, or whatever it is else that you're out there seeking it out through, other than through natural means. This is contrived. Natural means is organic, things that come from within, things that God has already put within you to regulate those things. He's giving you the ability to do that without drugs. You don't have to do it. But people that are already on them are not going to see that. And if you've been brought up in a society that's taught you that you take drugs for every little thing that you've got a problem with, well, then you're just going to believe that the rest of your life because that's what you've been taught. So they're taking over society utilizing these antidepressant psychoactive drugs. They're making your minds more pliable, and since they're emptying you out of all things that you would have in you to regulate those things within yourself and to guide you, then now they're able to fill your mind. You've made it pliable because it lowers your inhibitions, and they can just fill your head with propaganda. And then you just find the other people, you just migrate to those groups, because what else are you going to do? And then you just build up this idea of like, we're victims, and now we got to hate these people that are talking bad about us and our lifestyle. And not only do we have to hate them, we have to end their lives, because they cannot take it when you tell them what they're doing is wrong, because they have to have that. They have to have the lies at that point. That's the entire structure. Their whole world is built around this false reality that's just built up in their mind. It's completely and totally subjective. That could be undone. It can be undone if we can get people off of these drugs, get the kids off of these drugs. And we need to do it now, because if we don't do it now, the next generation coming out, they're already ahead of the adult population we have here as it is. And we take more SSRIs, we take more psychoactive drugs here in the United States than anywhere else in the world by far. We prescribe drugs for everything here. And the pharmaceutical companies have money coming out their ears and their butt. And it's at the cost of our lives. It's at the cost of the lives of the children. It's at the cost of the lives of our grandchildren. And they don't care. They don't care. They need a docile and completely idiotic, completely unable to critically think generation coming up that they can control completely. You know why? Because like I was talking about yesterday, there is a hard line drawn on people that are not willing to capitulate to this garbage. And they're going to need somebody to take them out. That's what they're doing. They're building an army to take you out. And they're starting to shoot at us now. They've been shooting at us. Now, they just seem to be getting a little more proficient. Apparently, what they're doing is becoming much, much more effective than it was previously. So, I've been on a rant here. And it feels good to get this out because I think everybody needs to know this. Everybody needs to know what's going on. We need to not just be watching TV and we listen to the news. This isn't the world I grew up in. I didn't grow up in this world. It wasn't like that when I was a kid. And if you go back one generation, I'm Generation X. You go back one before me, this wouldn't even been tolerated. It would not have been tolerated. We got lazy parents and we got lazy people. We're the fattest country on the planet. That alone should tell you that we got a bad diet and we're lazy. In totality. And I don't want to say everybody is, so we're not talking about every single individual. But we're talking about enough of the people that it's moving us in that direction. If we don't turn it around, we don't see what's going on and turn it around and turn our hearts back to God again. It's God that's going to ground us. It's the Bible that's going to give us a stable mind. It's the Bible which is going to give us an objective viewpoint. that we can stand on the rock, which is the Word of God. It's Jesus Christ. That's something we can stand on. Everybody else is standing on anything is building a house on sand, and it's going to collapse. And society is moving that way to where a lot of us are building our houses on sand, and it's going to collapse, and everybody's going to get affected by this. Because the ones that didn't build their house on sand are going to be attacked by the ones that did. Because they're going to blame it on them. My house collapsed, and it's your fault. It's your fault. Because you're telling me that I was living a bad life. I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. And I'm not talking about ad hominem attacks on people's character or anything like this. We're talking about fundamental things in your life that you should build your life on. That's what I'm talking about, is in the Scripture. If you don't build your life on that, you build it through some subjective means, yeah, there's a chance that it might not collapse. You could be a George Soros. You could be a Bill Gates. You know, these things are possible, but they're the exception to the rule. So they made it through their life. And I mean, obviously, they're not dead yet. But the point here is, they did that. They didn't build their life on the Word of God. They built it on sand. Now, they may make it through this life, but they're going to be punished in the end. But the whole of society is being affected by the bad things that they're doing. Who causes more polio in the world right now? Is it the virus itself? No, it's Bill Gates and his vaccination program, by the way. Going into countries and giving people polio and going into countries. And, oh, yeah, he's been kicked out of countries for doing what? He's been going in there and sterilizing women without telling them that's what they were doing. And he's been kicked out of several countries for that. Look that up. I'm not going to get into a bunch of different conspiracies now because I wanted to specifically focus on this. I wanted to focus on how it is that they're able to infiltrate the family so much more easily than they were previously. All right? We're not using the Bible as to make us of a sound mind. And every little problem we got, we're going to the doctor for, and we're getting a pill for it. Okay? So it lowers our inhibitions. It empties us out of all that which makes us human. Okay? These things are necessary. God gets happy. God gets sad. God gets wearied. And I mean not tired, but and when I say wearied, he just gets tired of what people are doing in certain respects. Okay? So all these things are a part of who God is. So, but we're trying to get rid of them by taking a pill. So there are ways to regulate these things naturally, organically. You don't want to go outside of that because you're not just treating a symptom. You're removing everything that could have made it better within you that you can use to regulate through your own body and through the daily activities of your life. But when they're using these drugs to empty out the people that are in this country, especially the kids, they're going to be able to use that propaganda and they're going to be able to fill their heads with it, and they're not going to have any defense. The defense is the family. If they break down the family, it's over. Once it's fully broken down, it's over. So we got to stop that. All right? The fathers out there, the mothers out there, we need to be more vigilant. What are our kids taking? What are they intaking? What are they getting on TV? What are they getting through the news? What are they getting through the internet, through the tablets? What are they getting from their friends? We need to know. We need to understand what it is that they're receiving. And we need to nip it in the bud to stop the propaganda from getting into these kids and to stop them from taking these drugs. All right? There are plenty other ways that we can help solve that problem other than popping a pill as an adult and as teenagers and as adolescents. We need to end that. And the pharmaceutical companies do not want that. Clearly, they want to pack their pockets full of money. And the people that are in charge love it because it makes you docile and stupid so that you're willing to listen to their idiocy. All right. My voice is already starting to get hoarse tonight. I didn't bring any water out here. So I want you to think about this. Anybody that watches this, think about it. These things are extremely important. And I don't know how many people are going to see this, and I hope 10 million people see it, and not just 200. But it needs to be said. And if only like a couple hundred people see this, or even 100 people see this, and then someone else in that 100 people goes out, and then they get another 100, and then one more person gets another 100. It doesn't have to be all 100 people. I want it to be every single person that hears this to go out and start talking about it to their friends, to their family, to their neighbors, everybody you know, everybody that's willing to listen. because this is extremely important. It's what is allowing them to get into the families. If they're taking these drugs, I know we're only talking about 10%, but it takes a lot less than that to ruin a country. And 16.3%, again, and this is 2022, these are teenagers, or age 12 to 17, people that are about to become adults. So, and you add in the adults, we're in the 30-some million. This is, we're talking about nearly 40 million people on antidepressants in this country. There's only 350 million people. So there's going to be people that are listening to this that are on them. I'm going to guarantee it. I know people that are on them. And I know what it does. I was told to take it at one point in my life. And I took it for a very short period of time and realized that it was not sustainable. You couldn't continue to take this and live your life normally. So that ended quickly. So I know that it's anecdotal, but that doesn't matter. What I'm saying is true. What I'm saying is true. The studies say that it's true, and I believe that any person you talk to that's taking these things is going to tell you it's true. And they may not know how to get off of it. I would say go to your doctor and ask your doctor about it. How do I get off of this? It's like, is there any other way that I can do this that's natural, that's not requiring me to take a pill that is going to put fluoride in my body, which when it comes into contact with things like aluminum in your brain, causes explosions. Not like firecracker explosions. We're talking about extremely tiny explosions that destroy neurons in your brain. And you need those because you were only born with so many. And the only thing in this world that we know of that causes neurogenesis, the only thing that's been documented to cause neurogenesis, which is the regeneration of neurons, is lion's mane. That's only one thing, and how much does it actually do? Okay, we can produce more stem cells by drinking like dark cocoa. This produces more stem cells, and there's other things that you can do to take that. But just talk to your doctor if you want to get off this stuff. And if you're on it, you should want to get off of it, in my opinion. Again, not a doctor, but I'm telling you, go talk to your doctor and say, is there any other way that I could do this? Because if you really feel that way, that it's not working for you, then go and get that taken care of. There are people out there that will help you. There are people out there that will listen to you. But when we're talking about the whole here, not just as individuals, and that's what I was talking to right there, but we're talking about the whole here in society. We cannot have a society of people where we're looking at maybe 20 to eventually 30% of the population is on antidepressants, and they're being emptied out of these feelings, and not everybody on that. There's probably a lot of conservatives out there that are on antidepressants. They're not liberals, they're not wokist, but I'm going to tell you that it makes your mind more pliable and empties you out of these things. It lowers your inhibitions, and you're going to do things you wouldn't normally do. Because those echoes of what it was that you already had in your mind, that what you needed to do to go out for your daily life, that you've been zombieing through, eventually those echoes are going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And they're not going to be as strong in you as they were before. And you're going to have to fill that with something. And I believe that that's what we're talking about with these, especially with kids that are going through puberty. Oh my goodness. You've already got hormones going wild. So, and then they're taking this and they're emptying you out. Now they don't know which direction to go, or if there is a direction even. Think about these things. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your family, and talk to your doctor. Amen. Have a good evening.